In the year 2388, across the Andromeda sector, the lifeblood of interstellar society was not spice nor rare metals, but pure, incorruptible data, managed by the Bitcoin Concord ledger. This decentralized network, built upon the legendary Satoshi Prime algorithm, governed every transaction, every identity, every digital contract. The currency, known simply as Bitcoin or Sats by the old data weavers, was the galaxy's standard. Deep within the forgotten asteroid belt of Xylos, shielded from stellar radiation and the ceaseless chatter of the Concord, lay the echo chamber archives. It was less a vault of information and more a sanctuary for obsolete protocols and digital specters. Here, Anya Sharma, a young data heretic barely out of her academy primers, sifted through ancient code projected onto a flickering console. Her cybernetically augmented fingers, stained with conductive ink, danced across lines of logic that predated the Concord itself. Anya often contemplated the myths, how the ledger was born from a single, immaculate algorithm, the Satoshi Prime. It wasn't a mere program, but a foundational key, fragmented and dispersed by its enigmatic architects, the first coders, to ensure no solitary power could ever dominate the flow of value across the stars. Her lineage traced back to one of its earliest custodians, a solemn vow, a perilous birthright. Anya wasn't just a researcher, she was a sentinel, one of a diminishing order sworn to safeguard a fragment of this mythical Satoshi Prime. Her fragment, disguised as an ornate temporal locket around her neck, pulsed with a subtle, almost undetectable energy. Dominating the skyline of the sector capital, Ethelberg, like a monolith of cold ambition, stood the Chronos Syndicate Tower, headquarters of the sector's most powerful data mining conglomerate. Its director, Thuron Kale, was a man convinced that true galactic order could only be enforced through absolute centralized authority. He viewed the decentralized nature of the Bitcoin Concord ledger not as its strength, but as a chaotic flaw, a vulnerability to be rectified. In his public pronouncements, Thuron would speak of Chronos Syndicate's unwavering commitment to ensuring the stability and security of Bitcoin, asserting that in these turbulent times, a firm hand was essential on the helm of galactic finance. He often remarked that decentralization was a noble ideal, but one whose era had waned, offering instead efficiency, security, and unparalleled prosperity under one guiding intellect. Thuron's desire for control was an open secret. He had been systematically absorbing smaller data firms, consolidating their processing capacity, their hash force, as the ancients termed it, in a relentless bid to gain unprecedented leverage over the ledger. But leverage was merely a stepping stone. He craved the source. He craved the Satoshi Prime. In her cramped, data-filled asteroid dwelling, screens alive with news of Chronos Syndicate's latest integration, Anya was on a secure hyperwave channel with Elder Kai, a reclusive sentinel residing on a remote lunar monastery. His holographic projection, slightly phased by stellar interference, carried a grave warning. He explained that the network vibrated with Thuron's machinations, that he was amassing nodes at a terrifying pace, seeking to initiate a harmony, override a theoretical exploit that would grant him the power to rewrite transaction histories, to validate counterfeit blocks, a catastrophe the ancient texts had foretold. Anya questioned how he could attain such dominion, as it would demand processing power far beyond even Chronos Syndicate's vast resources. Kai clarified that if Thuron could unlock the ledger's core functions with the Satoshi Prime, he wouldn't need to overpower the network, he could become the network itself. He warned that the approaching Bitcoin having a pre-coded system recalibration that temporarily thinned the ledger's core cryptographic defenses was the window Thuron aimed to exploit if he possessed the Prime. Anya asked if Thuron knew of the Sentinels and their fragments. Kai confirmed Thuron suspected that he had been hunting for whispers, for relics. He urged Anya to be ever watchful, explaining her locket wasn't merely a symbol but a functioning private key to a segment of the original Genesis block's administrative protocols. Suddenly, a concussive blast rocked Anya's dwelling. Crimson emergency beacons strobed. Anya cried out that they were there, that they had found her. Kai implored her to flee, stressing the locket must never fall into Thuron's grasp. He told her of a hidden subspace conduit on mining level 9, leading to the old starport, and instructed her to find Jack's glitch Corbin in the series deeps. He described Jax as unorthodox, but a genius who understood the Concord's deepest architecture, telling her to show Jax the sigil of the Void Drifters, as he would recognize its meaning. The connection fractured into static. Chrono's syndicate enforcers, clad in obsidian tactical armor, breached Anya's airlock. She barely managed to trigger a concealed escape pod, clutching the locket, as plasma fire seared the bulkhead behind her. Anya navigated the chaotic throngs of the sprawling starport, a fugitive with the destiny of the galactic economy hanging by a thread around her neck. She commandeered a weathered but swift courier vessel, blasting off into the particulate-choked void. Chrono's syndicate pursuit drones like angry hornets on her tail. Every fiber of her being screamed to run, to vanish, but Kai's words resonated fine Jax Corbin. The series' deeps were infamous a lawless asteroid cluster inhabited by smugglers, rogue AIs, and independent data miners who defied corporate dominion. If anyone could help her fathom the locket's true potential, and Thuron's scheme, it would be someone from this fringe. After a nail-biting chase through dense asteroid fields, evading Chrono's syndicate patrols by a combination of sheer audacity and desperate piloting, Anya's vessel, crippled and running on emergency power, crash-landed on a large, hollowed-out asteroid known as the Rust Bucket. The comet's tail cantina was as inviting as its name implied, a den of flickering hollows, bizarre alien clientele, and the lingering aroma of fermented synth grain. Anya, attempting to appear inconspicuous, approached a figure hunched over a complex datapad at a shadowed table, a web of wires and custom tech spilling around him. This was Jax Glitch Corbin. Nervously, Anya identified herself as sent by Elder Kai, and projected the sigil of the Void Drifters, a stylized comet, intertwined with a Möbius strip of binary code from her Omni interface. Jax looked up, his optical implant whirring as it analyzed the symbol. He grunted that the old hermit was still transmitting. Last he heard contemplating the existential proofs of the blockchain, and asked what dire straits Kai had thrust her into, noting Chrono's syndicate's bloodhounds had been sniffing around just last rotation. Lowering her voice, Anya revealed it was Thuron Kale that he sought the Satoshi Prime, and that she possessed a fragment. Jack's typically indifferent expression morphed into one of profound shock, then intense fascination. He whistled, muttering about the Prime, which he considered a mere legend, a fable for digital idealists. Realizing she held a piece of the master key to the entire Bitcoin Concord ledger, he told her she wasn't just in trouble. She was carrying a galactic catastrophe waiting to happen, especially with the halving event only 12 solar cycles away. If Thuron acquired that fragment before then, the ramifications would be apocalyptic. Anya pressed for more details about the halving event, as Kai had mentioned it rendered the ledger vulnerable. Jax explained that vulnerable was a gross understatement. The halving event was a core protocol function, hard-coded, designed for network-wide recalibration and to reduce the block reward. Crucially, the first coders had also built in a diagnostic and system integrity check during this period. For a few critical hours, the core encryption layers became more transparent, more accessible. If Thuron had even a single fragment of the Prime and timed his assault with the halving event, he could potentially inject his own malicious code and seize control of the consensus mechanism, akin to possessing the master override to the galaxy's central bank, while its primary security system was offline for scheduled maintenance. Jack's workshop was a chaotic orchestra of scavenged technology and bespoke computing rigs. He elucidated the terrifying brilliance of Thuron's ambition. It wasn't merely about amassing the most Bitcoin, it was about controlling the very definition of value, rewriting the fundamental rules of economic reality. Pointing to a complex holographic projection of the ledger, Jax detailed how it was maintained by millions of independent validator nodes. Thuron had been aggressively acquiring them, but couldn't achieve a true 51% majority without bankrupting his entire syndicate. Anya's locket, however, was no mere key, it was a shard of the original cryptographic signature that authenticated the Genesis block itself. With it, during the halving event's recalibration window, Thuron wouldn't require a majority of nodes. He could issue a root-level directive, essentially declaring to the entire network that he was the new ultimate authority, granting him the power to freeze accounts, reverse transactions, even mint limitless Bitcoin for himself, thereby hyperinflating the currency into utter worthlessness for everyone else. Anya asked if Thuron needed her fragment to complete the Satoshi Prime. Jax clarified Thuron needed sufficient fragments to reconstruct a master administrative key. Legends spoke of 9, each unlocking a different stratum of the core protocol. Her locket, from a direct Sentinel lineage, was likely linked to the transaction validation and temporal sequencing authority, which was absolutely critical. He wondered how many Thuron already had. Anya confessed she didn't know, only that Kai was attempting to contact other Sentinels. Just then, an alarm blared on one of Jack's monitors. A Chronos Syndicate dreadnought had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the series deeps. Jack swore, realizing they must have traced her courier's energy signature, or, even worse, possessed another fragment allowing them to monitor ledger activity associated with other prime pieces. They had to get off the asteroid. He mentioned his ship, the Satoshi Drifter, not elegant, but incredibly fast and full of illegal modifications. They raced to a concealed hangar, Chronos Syndicate drones already swarming the asteroid's docking arrays. The Satoshi Drifter was a heavily modified freighter, bristling with jury-rigged weaponry and oversized engines. As they blasted out of the asteroid, weaving through a storm of laser fire, Anya realized this was no longer just about safeguarding a legacy. It was about fighting for the very concept of a free, open system, the dream the first coders had embedded into the first block of the Bitcoin Concord ledger. In the Satoshi Drifter's cockpit, Jax wrestled the controls while Anya scanned for threats and calculated jump vectors. Jax figured Thuron wouldn't remain idle, knowing they posed a threat, and would move swiftly to secure any other prime fragments. They needed to reach the other Sentinels first, or at least ascertain what they knew. Kai had a list encrypted, but the decryption key was a passphrase only another Sentinel would recognize. Anya recalled the verse of the Genesis Dawn, taught to her by her grandmother. Jax, raising a cybernetic eyebrow, acknowledged the efficacy of ancient wisdom and set course, remarking the halving event was T-minus 11 cycles, and the cosmic clock was ticking with alarming speed. Aboard Thuron Kale's flagship, the Epic Sentinel, the atmosphere was one of cold, calculated efficiency. Commander Lyra, Thuron's new head of security, stood before him. Her uniform was immaculate, her gaze unwavering, a stark contrast to the more flamboyant Kale. She reported the fugitives had escaped the Ceres deeps, their vessel faster than anticipated, but they had tagged its quantum resonance signature, so they couldn't remain hidden for long. She also informed him she had initiated Operation Golden Vector.